Oh boy, no introduction needed for this one. Prepare yourselves for one of the television episodes of all time. Best bite down on something, we're going in dry.
Yes.
As you'll recall, in episode 2, evil assassin Fannie Mae, who is not really evil because evil is just a point of view.
I mean, the best parts about Star Wars is there is no good or evil. It depends on what side you're standing on.
Except where it isn't.
The show is truly about that balance of power and balance of good versus evil.
Succeeded in persuading tragically balding Jedi Master Tommen Baratheon to take the Canadian healthcare solution to sadness.
We thought we were doing the right thing.
That is pretty much the only piece of the previous episode that is at all relevant to this one, because it should clue you in that the events we are about to witness in this absolutely tragic flashback episode might not be quite as they appear.
Flashback episode, so quickly, hooray!
Otherwise, we enjoy a brief reprieve from the rest of the present tense stupidity in order to indulge in some past tense catastrophe. That both Fannie Mae and blank protagonist Occupational Safety and Health Administration know they are both alive now, that Fannie Mae and Potion Master Timu Ezra have escaped the clutches of the Jedi because Padawan Chungo Fat took his eye off the ball and because Jedi Master Squid Game inexplicably did not arrest Timu Ezra, and that Fannie Mae and Timu Ezra are now off to kill a third Jedi Master, Cal Naka, is all irrelevant for the purposes of this episode. But it is relevant for the purposes of this wonderful segue. I'm telling you it's a wonderful segue because the Acolyte has convinced me that just expositing your intent is the key to good writing. Here then is a very clever segue into an ad placement, because ad placements are fun.
And now a word from our sponsor.
Look at Cal Naka here. Cal Naka has let himself go. It's been about 3 days since he last had a shave and he looks a mess. You don't want to look like Cal Naka, you want to use Manscaped, and you can get 20% off Manscaped's handy little handyman razor plus free shipping if you go to manscaped.com/platoon and use my code Platoon. Manscaped is trusted by over 10 million men worldwide, and some especially hairy women as well, for their trimmers, hygiene, and shower formulations, not to mention their boxers. They sent me some, and no, I'm not doing an underwear shoot for you. Oh, okay, fine, here you go. If it weren't for the wonderfully dexterous Handyman razor, I'd have pubes going up to my chin. The Handyman is a perfect compact shaver with unique dual blades. See, you're not that special. It has a standard foil shaver as well as a long hair leveler that can take off up to 3 days worth of growth. Let's test it on Cal Naka here. Wait, it was Leslie all along. It's a genuinely handy little device, hence the name, that can last up to an hour on a single charge. So if you are really incomprehensibly hairy, you should be able to do your whole body in one sitting. Once again, you can get 20% off Manscaped products and free international shipping if you go to manscaped.com/platoon and use my code Platoon. That is manscaped.com/platoon using code PLATOON. The Acolyte Episode 3's Disney Plus blurb calls this a tragic story, and indeed it is, but not at all for the reasons they are referring to. It's not a tragedy in the tragedy of Darth Plagueis the Wise sense, and he will come up again later, believe me. No, it's just tragic is what it is. It's frumpy lesbians caterwauling into the night kind of tragic.
We were on the brink of extinction.
It's they spent $22 million to make this kind of tragic.
Money, a lot of money.
It's burning decades of expanded universe and replacing it with this kind of tragic. We begin somewhere in Wales, I think. A very pretty bit of scenery with the word Brendock plastered over it. I think they removed about 15 consonants from the original Welsh name to make it readable. We are also informed that we are, for the purposes of this episode, 16 years earlier.
Fade to black. Title: 3 weeks earlier.
Which tragically, and the word tragically will probably recur often during this video, means we're going to spend a whole episode being reminded why it is that child actors have such a bad reputation. We join Occupational Safety and Health Administration sitting under a pretty tree using the Force, the thread, on a beautiful flying bug thing. She releases it, but it's immediately grabbed again by Fannie Mae. Both the twins are here together.
The Bunta tree's so beautiful. Padosha. It's dangerous.
Hey, remember the last episode where the Acolyte stole the name of a Tatooine holiday and gave it to a kind of leaf that was used in the poison that killed poor Tommen Baratheon?
This is Bunta. From my home planet.
Well, here's where it comes from. Except that we already knew that this is where it comes from, because Occupational Safety and Health Administration explicitly told us in episode 2 that this is where it comes from. For a show billed as a mystery, the Acolyte is quite remarkable in foreclosing any chance of a mystery at the earliest opportunity.
I love a good mystery. I really do. And we've never had one in Star Wars before.
But we have, Grace. We have. We had it in Attack of the Clones. Pretty well the whole first act of Attack of the Clones is a mystery, and it's actually instructive when it comes to laying out the difference between a serviceable mystery and whatever the Acolyte is. Anti-mystery, I suppose? In Attack of the Clones, the mystery begins with the attempted assassination of Padme Amidala. When she suggests that Count Dooku may have been behind it, she is rebuffed as Mace Windu tells her,
"You know, milady, Count Dooku was once a Jedi. He couldn't assassinate anyone."
When a second attempt is made, Anakin and Obi-Wan chase down Zam Wesell, but Zam is hit by a toxic dart from a mysterious flying man. The dart is of unknown origin, and Kenobi must take it to the most worldly wise guy he knows in the hopes that he can identify it. It's George Lucas. I mean, it's Dex the Jetster. Old Dex tells him it's a Kaminoan saber dart and gives Kenobi a vague location for their homeworld. But when Kenobi looks it up in the Jedi archives, he gets an intergalactic 404 file not found. He then takes the conundrum to Master Yoda.
"Lost a planet, Master Obi-Wan has. How embarrassing."
It ought to be here, but it isn't. Gravity is pulling all the stars in the area towards this spot.
And one of the producer's kids suggests that the planet isn't in the records anymore because someone must have deleted it. Truly wonderful the mind of a producer's child is. Yoda is troubled by the deletion, suggesting that only a Jedi could have erased those files. So Kenobi has no option but to go to the gravity well caused by the mysterious planet. We'll just admit that a single planet does not have a big enough gravitational pull to attract stars, but never the fuck mind. And there he discovers the cloners and a clone army commissioned by a Jedi who died before the order for the army was placed, and the mysterious assassin is also there, who in turn leads him to Geonosis, and in turn to Dooku, and in turn to the mystery's solution. What we have in Attack of the Clones is a series of clues leading us through the plot. As in many mysteries, the solution to the immediate problem can be deduced from parts of the evidence, if you're paying attention. It's not especially subtle in the case of clones. The only 3 lines you need to solve the proximate mystery are, I think Count Dooku was behind it, Count Dooku was once a Jedi, only a Jedi could have erased those files. But the story gets bigger and the conspiracy deeper and broader at the same time, such that further questions are posed as you are solving it, even if you are paying attention and do deduce that it was Dooku early on. The why of the mystery is not satisfied, nor is the question of ends. Attack of the Clones is then a mystery plot. By contrast, what has the Acolyte given us? In episode 1, an assassin murders a Jedi Master, and somebody who looks exactly like the assassin is located and blamed for it. She has no alibi, because nobody bothered to check the story, check flight logs, mind read her, etc. Forget about it, it's dumb. For a few minutes, there is something like a mystery. Then, a few minutes later, the falsely accused has a random dream in which her supposedly dead twin sister outright tells us that she is still alive and she is going around killing the Jedi, and everybody instantly believes this story. So we foreclose the preliminary stage of the mystery by, essentially, Demon Child Ex Machina. Then, in episode 2, the assassin, Fanny May, goes and murders Tommen Baratheon with a poison made using something called Bunta. A few minutes later, along comes Occupational Safety and Health Administration, who sniffs the poison vial to tell us that it is indeed called Bunta, and that Bunta comes from her home planet. So, Fanny May was highly incompetent in using the one type of poison that could possibly serve as a breadcrumb, in order that Occupational Safety and Health Administration could tell us that it comes from their home planet, in order that, but we already know that Fanny May is alive, don't we? And we already know they both come from Brendok, and we already know that Fanny May is the assassin. So that breadcrumb leads us back to the foreclosed beat. If this is meant to intrigue us, it is doing a terrible job. It isn't intriguing. It's not leading any of our characters on a journey of discovery, a path that enlarges the conspiracy, because every constituent beat is affirming what the show outright told us in a dream sequence in episode 1. The show's principal mystery, the why mystery, remains, of course. Why is Fannie Mae assassinating all these Jedi? As does the broader conspiracy. Who is training Fannie Mae? Who is really behind it all? Our introduction to the first of these is not incompetent, to give the show as much credit as I can. Fannie Mae's introduction sees her accuse a Jedi of attacking unarmed innocents, which, combined with her lust for vengeance against them, and then to Tommen taking the Canadian healthcare option out of guilt in episode 2, and then the cagey responses given by Master Squid Game, and then the missing records and all the rest, all that clearly indicates a dark story that the Jedi wish to keep secret. But the problem seems to be that the show has no idea, no clue, how to turn a mysterious premise into threads of intrigue within its plot. It's keeping up the pretense at a formulaic mystery. Killed with Boonta poison comes from Brendok. Here we are on Brendok, next to the Boonta tree, which we're told is dangerous, but only if you eat it. But if anything, these beats are playing in reverse. The mystery works better if you play the Acolyte backwards. After all, consider the following beats and map them against, for example, the expanding mystery of Attack of the Clones. Number 1. We join 2 young girls sitting beneath a tree. It is a Boonta tree. One of the girls says it's dangerous if you eat from the Boonta tree. Number 2. Later, we come upon the body of a Jedi Master killed by an unknown assassin. The poison contains traces of Boonta extract. Boonta comes from Brendok. The assassin later kills another Jedi Master, having accused her of essentially war crimes. Number 4. We then meet a girl from Brendok who looks exactly like her. Number 5. She dropped out of the Jedi Temple because her training was difficult, because she lost her whole family in a fire on Brendok. Her whole family, including her sister. We learn that this story is not as she remembers it, as she has a Force dream of her sister who confirms that she is still alive and that she is the killer. Watched in reverse, the story ends with the confirmation, while the show we actually got leads with the confirmation, thus defeating a good chunk of its intended mystery. And it bodes terribly for the future, because it suggests that even though we've actually got the seeds of an intriguing premise, the why of it, the why Fannie Mae wants to kill Jedi, we will end up spending an awful lot of time pissing about aimlessly until we are ready for the show to just tell us, and it will just tell us, because it is addicted to exposition. It is a crack whore for exposition. It will tell us explicitly just what the hell is going on. The clues won't lead us to our conclusion. Our conclusion will lead us to a bunch of redundant clues, and then we'll get another flashback episode, maybe episode 4, maybe episode 6, in which the principal mystery is laid out before us. I actually reached the end of this episode concluding that originally it was intended to air first, and the release order was switched around because, as you will see very shortly, it's an absolutely abysmal episode, and they chose to delay their punishment. But speaking of punishment, I suppose we'd better get back to it, as Fannie Mae then grabs the little butterfly thing with the Force herself, just like Occupational Safety and Health Administration did. But when Occupational Safety and Health Administration did it, it was fine. Whereas now...
Stop! Why do you always have to do things like that?
Yeah, you just did it! What are you complaining about? Quit your bitching! What we're doing here is, of course, telling the audience that Fannie Mae is the bad twin. Because when she grabs animals with the Force, it's bad. And she always does it, meaning she's always bad. She tortures animals, just like Occupational Safety and Health Administration did until she stopped doing it. Fannie Mae will grow up to be some sort of psychopathic arsonist, I bet. We then continue smashing the audience's nose in with the fist of elevated subtext.
Why do you always run off alone? I don't want to do the ascension.
Oh, fuck me. Is your ass raw yet? It's going to be like that the entire time you're here. This is just how the writers operate. Everything must be said. Everything must be said overtly, because that's just how character writing works in Disney Star Wars. It's probably futile to point out that the Ascension is a new and upcoming thing, so if Occupational Safety and Health Administration always runs off alone, she's only always been doing that quite recently, since she learned the Ascension was imminent. But fuck it, that's just a quibble. There's no point wasting time on quibbles when there's so much Olympic stupidity in store in this episode.
1. The power of 2. The power of many.
Oh god, yeah, I'll deal with you in a minute, just pipe down. The girls head back home through the endless forest, where they repeat that little rhyme we first heard in episode 1's dream sequence.
You're with me, I am with you. Oh, she, I am with you. Always one, born as two. As above sits the stars, and below lies the sea.
And then, a horny lesbian teleports into the scene. Seriously, just look around the forest. Where the fuck did she come from? And she's not the only character with a case of teleportitis in this episode. Everyone's gone a little bit Cobb Vanth. Remember Cobb? No, of course you don't, because he was in the Boba Fett show. But he had a habit of apparating out of thin air too. Look, where's Cobb Vanth? Where's Cobb Vanth? Where's Cobb Vanth? There's Cobb Vanth! Spawned out of his deputy's arse by the looks of it. Oh god, it's honestly, it's things like this that are, if anything, more revealing of the state of modern Star Wars writing than even the silly witches and stuff like that. Those are conceptually borked, but the rot we're dealing with here has spread to the absolute bare essentials of writing and directing. It really is terminal. These hacks can't even grasp the concept of characters being in a fixed place. They have no sense of temporal causality. There are actually mollusks with a better handle on reality than modern Disney Star Wars writers. Octopuses can get their way out of locked jars. If you lock a Disney Star Wars writer in a jar, he'll just sit there until he can teleport out of it later. Horny Lesbian is the twins' mother, or, well, one of their mothers. Yes, we'll deal with that later. It is bad, but it's not bad in the way you might be expecting it to be bad. It's bad for lore reasons, but yeah, again, we'll not jump ahead. Horny Lesbian is very unhappy with the twins because she says it is dangerous outside the fortress and they are not allowed to leave.
What are you doing here? How many times have I told you? It is not safe out here.
Occupational Safety and Health Administration moans that she's old enough to go outside the fortress walls.
It isn't fair. I'm old enough to go outside the fortress wall.
And this is all vital establishing stuff, kind of. I mean, not really. What the show wants us to understand, and to understand very quickly, is that Occupational Safety and Health Administration is the rebellious one with a case of cabin fever. She's sick of being trapped by the strictures of her tribe, straining to break free of their suffocating and insular community. But to call this establishing stuff would be a technical inaccuracy, a terminological inexactitude, if you will, because usually establishment stuff establishes, i.e., it sets out present conditions and roots them in relevant history. This is what it is, and this is why. The Acolyte does precisely half of this job. It does tell you the way things are, overtly, several times, artlessly, but the why question doesn't even occur to it. In this show, things are the way they are because they need to be for this episode, not because anything has really been established. It's all been conjured into being in the precise second at which it's needed. This episode, for instance, wants Occupational Safety and Health Administration to be the adventurous one who feels trapped. But it expresses that by having her interested in things she has absolutely no business even being aware of. We find out, for example, that she knows all about the Jedi and she knows all about lightsabers, even though she's never seen or met them before, and the entire premise of the witch coven in which she lives is that they hate and fear the Jedi, while keeping the girls as close to a state of perfect obliviousness as possible. Meaning that, even if Occupational Safety and Health Administration had heard of the Jedi, it would be solely in the context of horror stories about her coven being hunted to the brink of extinction. She's going to want to go and join the Jedi instead of becoming a witch because that's what the episode needs her to want to do in order to justify a conflict with Fanny May later. Even though Occupational Safety and Health Administration would literally never have encountered the Jedi, even conceptually, in anything but the most negative and fearful of lights. Fanny May, by contrast, is only vaguely aware of the Jedi as being bad. Oh god, in fact, why am I laying all this out? The Acolyte does a sublime job of condensing it for us a little bit later.
The Jedi are bad. The Jedi are good.
There, isn't that so wonderfully well established? So glad I know why two girls brought up in the same isolated coven of witches that fears and shuns the outside world should have come to such diametrically opposed positions and worldviews, and even be prepared to kill for their beliefs. Oh no, but we've jumped ahead. We've got a little way to go before we get to that masterful moment. Let's get back into sequence. Horny Lesbian leads the two kids away, and it's time for our second teleportation. Look, Look, it's young Master Squid Game. Master Squid Game is at this point in his life in the midway stage between BTS member and Yoko Ono, otherwise known as Asian puberty. He has also teleported in, so he can spy on the kids from behind a tree, comically and creepily. Good job none of these witches are attuned to the Force, so nobody can sense his presence. Good job he didn't do what most people anchored in the material realm have to do, and walked to where he wanted to stand, otherwise they'd have spotted him. The Witch Coven lives in an... Oh god, wait a minute, no. Let's just have a few seconds of moon appreciation. Look at the moons up there, playing up the theme of the episode. One is red, one is blue, almost like the Acolyte title slate, isn't it? Ah, good on you, moons. The moons are the only two characters in the show who won't get a scene where they just tell us exactly what they think and represent. I'm the light side moon and I represent good and occupational safety and health administration. And I'm the dark side moon and I represent evil and May. And we come closer together as the ascension draws near, probably to symbolize that the twins were birthed by turkey basting in both light and dark side essence, creating a dyad in the Force or some such bullshit. Where was I? Sorry, the moons just distracted me. Oh yeah, this coven of witches live in this highly secretive, massive mountain fortress here.
The shape of a woman's womb.
The sheer obviousness of the massive mountain fortress is going to become relevant later, when the Jedi walk all the way into the giant mountain fortress and attempt to lie to its inhabitants by telling them that they thought the planet was uninhabited, because they're just fucking retarded in this episode, lest you wonder who made the fortress, or how long the fortress has been here, or whether all the people in the fortress are witches, or whether they just let the witches live with them in the fortress, and if so, why they would do that, lest you wonder pretty much anything about the history of this place at all, let me just save you the time. No. The only thing you need to know is that it is here, and it has witches in it, and it is made of flammable stone. Inside the fortress, the girls want to get spice creams.
Have some spice creams?
But evil horny lesbian says no, sensibly, because I'm pretty sure the Book of Boba Fett established that spice in the Star Wars galaxy is basically hard drugs. But this is all done to establish that evil horny lesbian is the bad cop mother, in order to draw a contrast with good cop mother who walks out at this moment, and because she is good cop, she is nice.
Let them have some spice creams.
Mama!
So you're literally giving your kids cocaine. What are you doing? This is Mother Annie. This is Mother Anus Eye. She's new and she's nice. I bet we'll get a whole 10 seconds before she tells us exactly who she is and what she thinks and why she's here.
They left the fortress again.
Did anyone see them?
I do not believe so.
Any sign of the visiting Jedi?
None. Our scouts think they've moved their ship inland.
I told you this planet would be safe haven for our coven.
It is not going to stay safe if Osha keeps running away. As our leader, I've always deferred to you when raising the twins. But you're too lenient. A firm hand is required.
Osha is testing her boundaries. It's normal behavior for a child.
The twins are not normal children.
Oh, Jesus H. fucking Corbett. No one should be allowed to write like this. It's fucking, oh. It's also worth noting at this stage that they live in a massive mountain fortress, and they've had scouts watching the Jedi, as has just been confirmed for us. Difficult job, you'd think, given the Jedi apparently just teleport all over the place, but never mind. And we will learn later that this planet is far outside the borders of the Galactic Republic, meaning that there is pretty much no reason at all the Jedi should be here, could be here, except that they are here deliberately, looking deliberately for this coven, and they've traced them to this planet. In which case, the massive mountain fortress is a bit of a giveaway, isn't it? The Jedi will pretend for all of a couple of seconds that none of this is true, and that they haven't come all this way to steal children because they are retarded. But those lies fall apart about as quickly as the plot of an Acolyte episode. But that means that there is absolutely no way the Coven of Witches, whom it'll be strongly implied have previously been hunted by the Jedi to the brink of extinction, should be sanguine about the Jedi's sudden appearance. They should know, because it is so fucking obvious, that the mysterious force birth of the twins, coupled with their training of the twins, coupled with the imminent ascension ceremony, coupled with the sudden appearance of the Jedi on this random planet outside Republic space, is not coincidental. They should either be preparing their defenses or, and much more likely, they should be preparing to leave, because there is absolutely no way they can stay here, especially since they themselves will acknowledge later that fighting off or killing the Jedi will just bring more of the Jedi down upon them. And this time, the Jedi will be pissed off and probably murderous, because that's the sort of thing the Jedi are liable to do in a show that, per Leslie Headland, wants to see the Jedi taking their fair share of L's. But as is always the case, because it is the rule in this show, fuck it, never mind. Having characters actually recognizing their situation and acting as though they are sentient by responding to it appropriately, nah, that's not allowed, because the writers have this incredible story to tell, and you cannot allow things like character motivations and thoughts to get in the way of an incredible story, a story about lesbian space witches in a vagina fortress who give birth to Force Jesus in the form of twins who cannot act. Oh god, such an incredible story. Much incredibleness in this tale. There's actually no reason either that the Jedi shouldn't already be here at the fortress, by the way. And given we've learned that Occupational Safety and Health Administration frequently runs out of the fortress, and Fanny Mae always follows her, there's not really any reason why they shouldn't have just kidnapped them already and flown away. Because that's the sort of thing the Jedi almost certainly do in this show. Pissing about in the forest, only to turn up at the giant vagina fortress later playing the "oh, we thought no one was home and we're not here for anything in particular" card, which is what they will do, is so dumb it could really only happen in a Disney Star Wars show. And unhappily, that is exactly where we are. But we'll come to all that shortly. For now, and having handily exposited that Mother Anus Eye is the nice parent and the leader of the coven and the one everyone else looks up to, etc., we're now off to train the twins in the ways of the Force. I mean the thread. The thread is what I meant.
All living things are connected by the same thread. A thread woven through all of existence.
It's going to be worth noting here, by the way, any material differences between the witch's understanding of the thread and the traditional understanding of the Force. You will need a lined piece of A4 paper. Specifically, you will need precisely one line of A4 paper, because the difference here is principally semantics. It is the same thing, they just use different words. This is all quite easy to show.
All living things are connected by the same thread. A thread woven through all of existence.
The Force is what gives the Jedi his power. It's an energy field created by all living things. It surrounds us and penetrates us. It binds the galaxy together.
Some call it a force and claim to use it. But we know the thread is not a power you wield.
Remember, a Jedi can feel the Force flowing through him.
You mean it controls your actions?
Partially, but it also obeys your commands.
Pull the thread, change everything. It ties you to your destiny.
I call it luck.
In my experience, there's no such thing as luck.
Luke, it is your destiny.
Now, since the show is so very concerned with elevating semantics to a point of difference, it is only fair that we quibble semantically with it. In point of fact, the Jedi do not claim to use the Force, they just use it. They even say that's what they're doing.
Use the Force, Luke.
It is also unwise, if you want to be taken seriously, to say that the thread is not a power that you wield so soon after you've just wielded it to fly a blue onion around the room, and so shortly before you demonstrate its potential as a weapon. Now, it's debatable whether there is any difference in the distinction between the thread tying you to destiny and the Force having a will, or indeed post-prequels of the midichlorians being the thread, so to speak, tying a Jedi to the will of the Force. The idea that by pulling the thread thread, you change destiny, could be interpreted as a fairly important distinction, since it would imply that the witches do not show the same humility before a higher power as the Jedi do. Pulling the thread to change destiny is a more immediate and all-consuming expression of power than is communing with the Force, the will of which remains unchanged no matter the purposes to which you put it. I do not pretend to be an expert in Star Wars lore, but philosophically, the concept of prophecy, and yes, we will be returning to Anakin in due course, is seldom distinguishable from the idea of predestination, meaning that the witches believe you have the power to change destiny by pulling on a thread, while the Jedi believe in interpreting the settled will of the Force, which cannot be changed by your actions. Or, at least, this is what the Jedi believe they are doing. But this episode itself will go on to operate relativistically, where, well, actually, why am I even bothering to lay this out? Take it away, Mother Anus Eye.
This isn't about good or bad. This is about power and who is allowed to use it.
To give the show its due, there is then some little substance contained in this scene, and at least a bit of distinction between the thread and the Force, or rather perspectives about the will. It's been almost completely shrouded in silly semantic word games and self-contradicting statements, which is probably why a potentially interesting idea has been so vastly overshadowed by everything the episode fucks up later. And this is a problem, since the Acolyte is here introducing us to an entirely new faction, never before seen, about whom we know absolutely nothing going in, with no settled lore to fall back on, and no pre-established place in the galaxy. Apparently in a bid to bring very stupid people back on side, Acolyte press bullshit has lately pivoted to invoking the name of Star Wars savior Dave Filoni. According to Leslie Headland, it was Filoni who told her that not all witches in the galaxy have to be Night Sisters. Needless to say, I used the words Star Wars savior Dave Filoni with irony spread more liberally than Chungo Fat spreads his butter, because this is exactly the sort of stupid decision that unearns him that reputation. The Night Sisters do have backstory, do have lore even in the Disneyverse. They do have a semi-established magic system and philosophy thereof, and they are being utilized later in the timeline, as we have seen to such tragic effect in Ahsoka. If anything, this all means the witches should have been Night Sisters, since Night Sisters are a more useful faction to the wider New EU story, and so would benefit from more historical development in a show like this. Were these witches Night Sisters, we would learn more about their ancient animosity toward the Jedi, about their different interpretation of the Force and magic, about their history and such. Instead, we've spawned an entirely different, entirely unrelated bunch of lesbians, witches. Talk about distinctions without differences. We've introduced an entirely unrelated bunch of witches, for whom all the work must now be done, whose links with the wider galaxy and the wider story are non-existent, who we know aren't operative later in the timeline, therefore making them much more expensive to create and with much less utility going forward. In other words, TLDR, it's a typically dumb creative direction from Star Wars savior Dave Filoni. Given these witches' differences with the Jedi will be pivotal in motivating conflict later in the episode, and presumably later in the show as well, it's important that we understand precisely what those differences are. And though I'm not calling for a massive info dump in this training scene, I am saying that this training scene should have accomplished far more than switching a few nouns and verbs and then wasting a bunch of time with this sort of nonsense.
The power of one.
We already know what the Force or the thread can do. We've seen Fannie Mae using it in this show, and given its practical function is indistinguishable from the Force, again playing on the idea that the thread is simply a different perspective on a common power, well, that means we've seen countless Jedi use it too. This tells us nothing, except that the show wants us to think there is a meaningful difference between Witch and Jedi. It just does nothing to establish what and why that difference is. Consider, after all, that we are currently building up to this ascension ceremony, in which Fannie Mae and Occupational Safety and Health Administration will be officially inducted into the higher echelons of lesbianism. Given they were created for this express purpose, and they presumably did not plop out of horny lesbian as 10-year-old girls, they have had ample time in which to cover this most entry-level introduction to the witch's powers and philosophy. These are the sort of cheap tricks science teachers do in a bid to trick prospective students. Look at the cool science stuff I can do. Now sign here, please. LOL, you've been tricked. You fools. You foolish fools. It's all gonna be just fucking textbooks and maths for the next 4 years. Fuck you! Imagine if, instead, we'd trusted the audience to join their training midway through. Imagine if, rather than throwing onions around and doing stagger damage to some lesbians, we'd actually had them talking at a higher level about what it means to be a witch, about what they believe, about their view of the universe and the cosmos, beyond this vaguest of stuff about threads and destiny. Without even referencing the Jedi, we'd have firmly established the worldview difference between them, while also doing vital work grounding the lesbian witch's purpose, their philosophy, their sense of self, why they fight so hard to survive. What about their religion is worth all they've sacrificed for it? Instead, what we got is boring. Look, even the twins find it boring.
Pay attention. Stop distracting me.
Girls.
Oh, fucking 0 marks for acting as usual. Isn't this training session supposed to be for their exclusive benefit? Why are you just letting them squabble? Why are they still squabbling? Why aren't you stopping them?
You lack discipline.
Nuh-uh, don't lack a discipline.
皆さん, you all need more discipline. True discipline come from within.
Power of 2. And tonight, at the ceremony, you will experience the power of many.
Oh god, oh god, oh god, it's coming. It's coming, oh my god. Did anybody not know that 2 people are generally stronger than 1? Or at least have a higher relative damage output? This doesn't seem especially controversial.
And I'm all the Jedi.
Oh fuck, I didn't mean you. Finally, Mother Anusai decides that the girls do indeed lack a discipline.
Your enemies will not warn you before they attack.
This is slightly ironic, given one of these twins does literally nothing but warn her enemies before she attacks.
Attack me with all your strength.
But if I were to credit the writers with more ability than they probably have, I would say this is also intended to foreshadow the coming disaster. No, not the episode, that is an unfolding disaster. The coming disaster is the death of the witches and the destruction of Fort Vagina. For reasons we shall explore later, I am quite convinced that this is the Jedi's doing, and they do indeed give no warning before they do it. Remember too Fannie Mae's jibe against Trinity?
Jedi do not attack the unarmed. Yes, you do.
Remember Tommen yeeting himself out of guilt? Yeah. No, I really do think this line is meant as foreshadowing, but it could all have ended so soon if Mother Anusai had got her calculations even slightly wrong, applied just the wrong amount of force, thread. Both these girls would have cracked their heads on that flammable stone step and died. Wouldn't that have been nice? The other purpose of the scene is, of course, to continue establishing, and by establishing I mean continue smashing the audience's nose into a bloody pulp with, the fact that Fannie Mae is keen and comparatively attentive and much more proactive in her journey toward lesbianic eudaimonia than the comparatively reluctant Occupational Safety and Health Administration. Mercifully, before they can turn this barely concealed subtext into text like they normally do, don't worry my pretty little retards, they'll get back to that. The pointless training session is interrupted by a peculiar noise. The girls are sent to their room while horny lesbian goes to have a quick stare at what I'm guessing is Fort Vagina's power generator from which the noise came. What a mysterious noise it was. The Jedi are here and they've sabotaged it. I wonder what it could possibly have been. It was the Jedi. It all seems fine now. It's not. The Jedi are coming to kill you. I guess there's nothing worth investigating. Yes, there is, you dumb fuck. Anyway, we can't be expected to spot sabotage in the power generator. We're women. We're witches, not technicians. Think I got away with that there? Almost did a sexism. We can't be having that. Up in the bedroom, the show does indeed get back to elevating the previous scene's subtext into a giant iron fist, which it proceeds to ram into our face with reckless abandon.
What is troubling you, Osha?
She's nervous about tonight.
Is this true?
She's scared.
Let your sister answer.
I don't want to do the ascension, but that's how we become witches. I don't know if I want to be a witch. Of course you want that. No, you want that.
Oh God, it's such a tired cliche. You'd think even this show might have realized we didn't need it explaining to us. What very much does need explaining is why Occupational Safety and Health Administration doesn't want to be a witch. She and Fannie Mae are a perfect fucking twin study. Born together, growing up together, the exact same set of family, social, and economic conditions, the exact same experiences even. After all, Occupational Safety and Health Administration is one to complain that she doesn't want to have to share everything with Fannie Mae, meaning that they have been sharing everything and she's frustrated by that. There is no material reason for this profound difference in their characters. And yet, the difference must exist because, where else can we get our conflict from? Honestly, if I had to guess, the sole explanation we'll end up getting is that these two, created by some bizarre experiments with the Force/the thread, are a dyad in the Force/the thread. Because we really need to substantiate that, don't we? After JJ just threw it into Traz without a care in the world because he's a fucking hack. There are many, many theories as to what a dyad in the Force really is, what occasions it, what brings it into being, and who better to go to for this than the authority on all things profound, Grace Randolph.
Problem that some fans feel is that by making Osha and May a virgins, aka a Force nexus, that undercuts Anakin Skywalker as he's supposed to be the only person who's a living virgin since Star Wars. And that's what makes him so special and powerful. Well, first off, there's already been another set of twins created by the Force in the animated show Star Wars Visions, another Force dyad, a male and female like Kylo Ren and Rey. That time it was created by the Galactic Empire instead of a coven of witches, or maybe witches working for the Galactic Empire. They didn't really totally explain it, but they both used the dark side of the Force to create these life forms out of a virgins, out of a Force nexus. But both times, as you can see here on this show and with Star Wars Visions, one twin ended up being drawn to the dark side and the other to the light side, as if no matter who creates the virgins, the Force insists on there being balance, that one is drawn to the light side and one is drawn to the dark side. Now, I didn't see anyone complaining about the Star Wars Visions situation, which is literally exactly the same, although, of course, different ethnicity. And you notice I keep saying twins. Well, Anakin doesn't have a twin, and that's why he's still plenty special.
No, Grace. In the first place, of course very few people complained about the dyad in Star Wars Visions. But I'm going to go out on a limb here and say that has more to do with the fact few people have ever heard of Star Wars Visions than it does the fact that Occupational Safety and Health Administration and Fannie Mae are black women. I also wouldn't go about citing another Disney dyad to bolster any argument you want people to consider sane. I haven't seen Star Wars Visions like the vast majority of the population of the Earth, but it sounds from your explanation that it got about as much explanation as JJ gave for Rey and Kylo. Not a model I'd want to emulate, in other words. Though, come to think of it, since we'll shortly learn that Horny Lesbian is the one who carried the twins, and Mother Anus Eye just wielded the Force-infused turkey baster, why are they black women? Wouldn't they look more like Horny Lesbian, given that they were inside her and presumably came from her eggs? Or does Mother Anus Eye have the ability to use the Force to influence the midi-chlorians to produce sperm? Leaving aside the Anakin stuff, though, I actually think, and I can't believe I'm going to say this, but fuck it, I'm a fair-minded chap. I can't say, I'm gonna have, no. I actually think Grace is almost certainly correct. Yep, I just said it. Yep, I'm actually speechless. I think Grace is almost certainly correct when she reads these dyadvergences as combining the two sides of the Force. My theory since I first watched episode 3 is that Mother Anus Eye has attempted to create a virgins by combining the entire Force, light and dark side, in the form of the thread, and shoved that thread right up into Horny Lesbian's loamy womb. That's a sentence. Twins were the result because the Force cannot long be jammed in the loamy womb of a Horny Lesbian before it naturally reverts to its bifurcated state. And so Fannie Mae is the dark side embodied, and Occupational Safety and Health Administration is the light side embodied. And it's this, not their actual material conditions, that produces their diametrically opposed characters. The show could still spring a surprise or two, and it'll doubtless try to invoke perspective to escape the charge that it's just recreating the binary good versus evil conflict it pretends it's too intelligent to go in for, because no clever things have ever been produced within a framework of of moral absolutes. So even if Fannie Mae is the embodiment of the dark side, and even if this makes her impulsive and aggressive and hot-tempered, her evil actions are not the product of the dark side per se. The dark side influences her temperament, and only her temperament, because the show doesn't necessarily want us to view the dark side as evil. Rather, they'll be the embodiment of the old W.H. Auden line from September 1st, 1939. I and the public know what all school children learn: those to whom evil is done do evil in return. The critique of the Jedi, then, will be that their imposition of rigid philosophy and codes of ethics and their imperialistic moral certainty actually creates the aberrant conditions that make dark side adept evil. That would be my guess as to what the show is going for. Regardless, whatever story they try to tell, the one thing we can be reasonably sure of is that they will tell it horribly. Mother Anus Eye attempts to stop the twins squabbling and finally starts explaining things to them that she really ought to have explained quite a long time ago.
This is your sister. The thread tied you together before you were born. Tell her you love her.
I love you. I love you. Don't be afraid, Oshi.
Ascension is about walking through fear. It is about sacrificing a part of yourself. The power of many instead of the power of one.
The power of one.
You think you want something different than life in this coven, but that is because you are young. The galaxy is not a place that welcomes women like us. Witches who have the abilities we do. You and your sister are special, Osha. I want you to stay special.
The "because you're young" line kind of rankles precisely because the only thing with any explanatory power here is the nature of the twins' birth, the light versus dark side dichotomy. After all, Fannie Mae herself is also young. She is exactly the same age, in fact, yet she doesn't have Occupational Safety and Health Administration's rebelliousness, even if in most other respects she is the impulsive, hot-headed and independent one. While the only information we've really had about Occupational Safety and Health Administration and her relationship with this planet and its people is that she thinks the trees are nice and she's friendly. It actually reads as a bit odd that the timid, meek character who likes the planet and its people should be the one champing at the bit to leave it all behind, while the selfish and impulsive one is the one who wants to stay and follow orders. It ends up acting against character cliche by not conforming to type, but only because the show doesn't bother matching up what we see of characterization and what we are told of character motives. That night, in Fort Vagina, preparations are beginning for the ritual of ultimate cringe. You've got some witches loitering around next to a giant hole that they own for some reason, while down in the bedroom the twins are having their unchanging hair unchanged for the occasion. Fannie Mae is very keen to eat more of those spice creams, she tells us.
How many spice creams are you gonna eat tonight? I think I'll eat at least 4.
Which is completely understandable since they are basically Class A controlled substances and she is an addict. Then, for no other reason than to push the inherent conflict between them in the most unsubtle way imaginable, Occupational Safety and Health Administration is drawing something in her notebook. But when Fannie Mae asks to see it, Occupational Safety and Health Administration gets angry.
What are you drawing? Stop! Don't look!
If you didn't want anyone to look, you strange, silly person, then you shouldn't be drawing out in public, should you, for fuck's sake? What you're doing here is really just kind of bullying. Obviously, the beat is there so we can be beaten into a pulp by the fist of subtext again.
It isn't fair. I share everything with you, and you hide things from me or run off alone. I want to have my own things. Why? Because I want to do everything together all the time. But why? Because we're not the same. Of course we are. No, it feels that way because we're the only children here.
For fuck's sake. Gee, do you want to know how easy it would be to make all of this not shit? I'm not even throwing this out as good, by the way. I'm just throwing this out as not shit. Do you know how easy it is? Here, let me show you. It's time to spitball a better script in 30 seconds again. The episode begins with young Occupational Safety and Health Administration running through the forest with some children. They're frolicking around and playing, but when they run round a bend in the woods, who should be standing there but horny lesbian and Fannie Mae? The other children fall silent, they look scared, and they run away, while horny lesbian grabs Occupational Safety and Health Administration by the arm and frog marches her back to the fortress. Why can't I play with the other kids? Occupational Safety and Health Administration moans. Because you're not like the other kids, says horny lesbian. Later, in their bedroom, Fannie Mae sees Occupational Safety and Health Administration sulking. She's scribbling things in her notebook. Fannie Mae is shy and timid, but she eventually asks Occupational Safety and Health Administration if she wants to go outside and play together in the courtyard. This prompts Occupational Safety and Health Administration to snap at her. No, I don't, and I don't want to hang out with you all the time. I want my own friends, etc. Occupational Safety and Health Administration gets up and storms out of the room, leaving poor Fannie Mae all alone. Later still, Occupational Safety and Health Administration is summoned to meet Horny Lesbian and Mother Anus Eye. Fannie Mae is there. Horny Lesbian is holding Occupational Safety and Health Administration's notebook. In it, Occupational Safety and Health Administration has been scribbling all of her darker thoughts, her frustrations with Fort Vagina, her reluctance to be a witch, her plans to run away, which she scrawled in anger before Fannie Mae interrupted her. That leads to an especially stern telling off, which culminates with her, essentially, being forced to pledge her allegiance and to promise to make the ascension. Occupational Safety and Health Administration reluctantly agrees, but the twins shoot each other angry looks as they leave. Fannie Mae feels jilted and rejected. Occupational Safety and Health Administration knows that Fannie Mae has been going through her notebook and has dobbed her into the parents. That all brings us up to this scene, the one we just saw, where they are preparing for the ceremony. But rather than expositing everything for us, they neither speak to nor look at each other. At no point in the rewrite do either of the girls have an explicit argument of the sort they have here. No, don't look, I don't want to share with you because I don't want to have to share with you because we aren't the same and you only think we are the same because we live in a very strange place that I have no reason to think is strange because I've literally never known anything else, for fuck's sake. The rewrite accomplishes the same thing with no exposition required because you actually see these dynamics play out. Plus, by having other children in the fortress, we solve a couple of problems. We give Occupational Safety and Health Administration a glimpse of a free life, an alternative, a life outside the confines of the cult, and we don't end up with a giant vagina fortress populated by normal villagers as well as witches, by the looks of things, who are all fucking sterile, apparently. Because that's just dumb as hell. Why would the villagers have no kids?
Don't you wonder what could be out there besides Brendock? No, why not? Everything I need is here.
But that's, oh, the fuck it. You know what? Never the fuck mind. Never the fuck mind indeed. I was going to start quibbling with the exposition again, but there's no point. There's no point at all, because you're all here for one thing, aren't you? Yeah, I know you are. Are you ready for it, folks? Are you ready for it? The ceremony of ultimate cringe. Yeah! Here we fucking go. Okay. I mean, I'm going to have to interject anyway because copyright. But watching that first bit there just put me in mind of this here news article. Women are weird, man. They go in for some strange shit. They always have. Men form secret societies and such with grand political aspirations, but women from the ancient world to the modern, will get together and sacrifice animals to make sure Susan from across the road is cursed to suffer her husband's flaccid member until the day she dies, because she told Beth that she thinks Rachel is fat. Then they'll go back and read horoscopes to each other as though Jupiter gives a fuck about their social life, before moaning at their boyfriends for the crime of preferring to go to the pub rather than coming home and being moaned at for an additional 3 hours by somebody who just murdered a goat to settle a grudge. I really, hand on heart, do not know what most of you see in them, and I think on balance the world would be much better off if they did not have the vote. I mean, look what they're doing to Star Wars.
We were hunted, persecuted, forced into hiding, all because some would consider our power dark, unnatural.
This one here, she just orgasmed because she got to blame the galaxy for her problems. Have you considered, Grace? Have you maybe, just for a moment, considered that the galaxy doesn't like you because you're a bit fucking weird?
We were on the brink of extinction!
Calm the fuck down, Phyllis. Please. Spirit animals aren't real and you're not a fucking owl. Stop it.
We were blessed with a miracle. The gift of life.
Oh my god, honestly, women, man, here they are in their woman-only club blaming the galaxy for their problems, excluding men from their coven, and now they're complaining that it took a fucking miracle for them to create children. This seems like a problem entirely of your own making, ladies. No, you know what, I've changed my mind. I completely see why Occupational Safety and Health Administration would want to get as far away from this fucking bullshit as possible.
I can't watch anymore.
the thread has tied together, no one can separate.
Oh, look at the moons. The moons are thematic again.
The power of one.
The power of two. The power of many.
I'm too weak. Oh.
Power of one.
The power of two. The power of many.
This is what Star Wars is now. This is what Star Wars is now. The power of one, the power of two, the power of many, the power of women. Hey, not to tear us away from this hysterical womanry, but remember when Mother Anus Eye told Horny Lesbian that she promised this planet would be safe for them? That kind of implied their main reason for being here is just that it's safe, not that it holds any broader or grander significance. But what happens if they'd found some other safe planet that didn't have two thematic moons to shine over the ceremony? Would the ceremony just not have worked? Is this just pure coincidence? Is it merely decoration? Or is this planet actually really significant and the show has just forgotten to tell us why that is? Honestly, I was memeing a bit earlier, though all the good memes contain a kernel of truth, don't they? But terrifically cringe though this all is, it's really not that unrealistic. The ancient world was full of female cults that behaved in exactly this way. It's one of the many reasons that our enlightened ancestors burned so many women. In the story of Dionysus, for example, this wondrous and youthful god was so enchanting that women who glimpsed him had a nasty habit of going totally mad. One of the earliest documented cases of social contagion. In fact, some of his most prominent followers were women, known as the Maenads, which translates as to rave, to be mad, or to be angry. Next time your wife, your girlfriend, or if you live in the great state of Alabama, your sister is mad at you, you can take comfort in the knowledge that you have suffered as the gods once did. Maybe you really are Dionysus incarnate. The point is, I suppose, that it's not impossible to work some variant of female cult behavior into a Star Wars context. The Night Sisters of Dathomir meet large parts of this definition. Though it is kind of ironic that in a bid to open up Star Wars to more women, the white slavers have twice decided that the best way to do this is to just conjure up an image of female power and agency that women themselves once fought to free themselves of. This particular example is deeply cringe in its acting, in its faux spirituality, in its appalling little chant, but it's also playing down to a particularly base cliche about feminine group identity that basically says women's power is best expressed in the form of corny, pseudo-occult, Wiccan-infused witchcraft. In other words, those wacky and affluent white liberal Western women who buy crystals and read tarot cards and spend thousands of dollars for the privilege of going into the woods to scream at nature, something sensible men with nagging wives figured out ages ago is free, are dominating the mode of female representation in Star Wars. I don't consider this progress, personally. The power of a Princess Leia, a Mon Mothma, or a Mara Jade didn't rest on witchery and gender magic. It was measured on the same axis as any male character's was. Personal strength, moral fortitude, intelligence, decision-making, and so on. I'd have been on board with any suggestion that Star Wars could do with more and better strong female characters if that was what we had in mind. But if your idea of feminizing Star Wars is fucking this, then no, fucking sod it. I want some equity, thank you very much. You can keep your all-female witch cults, and we'll keep Star Wars.
Mayho Anasea, you vow upon my death to protect the secrets of our coven and continue our legacy.
I do.
So that's Fannie Mae lost to the, oh, fucking hell, even the soundtrack is getting involved now. Why is the soundtrack chanting at us? Fannie Mae having been branded by the Mark of Lesbos. It is Occupational Safety and Health Administration's turn. Occupational Safety and Health Administration is far from keen to follow along, understandably, given the heretofore unimaginable depths of cringe to which we have now sunk. But she almost relents. However, we are interrupted.
I... too?
Mother! The Jedi! They've sliced the platform.
Now I have no idea what the fuck slicing the platform means or entails, and we'll reach the end of the episode without anyone or anything enlightening us. I'm rather more vexed though, by the fact that this is supposed to be the most important ceremony in the whole history of this coven, presumably. And Mother Anus Eye is a couple of words away from completing it. Are you really telling me that you would get to 98% completion on a progress bar, then just hit pause while you go and investigate some sort of noise? Some knock at your door? There are loads of you. You're armed with, well, okay, fine. You're armed with bows and arrows for some fucking reason. But there's enough of you to at least delay the Jedi, to hold them off for all of the 5 seconds required to finish the ritual and have Occupational Safety and Health Administration ascend. But oh no, we can't possibly do that. All our attention must be diverted to these 4 Jedi who've just walked in unannounced. Sure, let's all go and chat with them. The most important ceremony in the history of our coven and possibly even the galaxy itself, that can just wait. And then, of course, the entire scene is basically fucked beyond sense. Let's begin.
We thought this planet was uninhabited.
No you didn't. You know you didn't. They know you didn't. And they're not all that surprised to see you, so it's reasonable for you to infer that they had some idea you were here. You walked all the way into a fucking vagina fortress, and you sliced a platform, whatever the fuck that means, to get here. You don't break into a fortress and walk all the way through it and slice its platform, whatever that means, and past many clear signs of habitation and a fucking spice cream vendor probably, only to say, oh, so sorry, we thought nobody was home. Why begin with such an obvious lie, Trinity?
The all-knowing Jedi were ignorant of their surroundings. I find that hard to believe.
See? Everyone knows that was a lie. This is not an especially good start, is it? Why would you lead with this when being exposed as a liar off the bat is a terrible way to earn somebody's trust? The kids, meanwhile, are supposed to be hiding, but they are quite obviously sneaking around and they whisper very loudly while trying to get a good view of the Jedi.
Look at their robes. How they wear their sabers. Get back here. You are her Mother Coral.
This, as far as we know, is the first time Occupational Safety and Health Administration has ever encountered an alien who is not resident in Fort Vagina. It is certainly the first time she has encountered a Jedi. Yet the sight of giant hair-bull Kilnaka just encourages her, and the main thing she's immediately interested in is their robes, because we're fast-forwarding to the point where she develops a passionate want to join a group of people she has never met and about whom she can only have heard horror stories. Because that's just what the show wants to happen, and fuck character work. It's also worth noting, purely because I'm in a bad mood now and so I'm intent on massacring all the prisoners I take, that the actual conversation between Trinity and Mother Anus Eye pauses for most of the girls' scene, meaning that while they are sneaking around obviously, Trinity and Mother Anus Eye are just, what, on pause? In a stare-off? Scissoring? Mind-fucking? What gives, show?
What do you want?
We are concerned that you are training children.
Okay. Well done, Trinity. Way to confirm you were lying earlier. Managed to explode your opening lie and imply you've been spying on these people, all in the same sentence. That's an immense amount of trust and reputational damage condensed into a very short space. Congratulations.
The Republic lost.
Brendok is not a part of the Republic.
There are no children here.
Fucking everyone's at it now, are they? Everyone's just going to tell obvious lies? Horny lesbian, if they're concerned you're training children, and if you know they've been skulking around on this planet for a while, it is reasonable for you to infer that they know you have children here. It's also reasonable to suppose that one of the Jedi might have overheard the noisy children as they snuck around trying to get a look at the Wookiee. As for Republic lore, why invoke that if you already know that Brendok isn't in the Republic? As you must surely know, because the Republic has fucking maps. Qui-Gon didn't have this problem on Tatooine. He tried to mind trick Watto into accepting a currency that had no use on the planet, but Qui-Gon himself otherwise played along with local rules and customs. In fact, it was Padme who was rebuked for presuming that Republic lore and standards applied in the Outer Rim, a scene explicitly designed to highlight her naivety.
I can't believe there's still slavery in the galaxy. The Republic's anti-slavery laws are...
The Republic doesn't exist out here.
Here, you are having an actual Jedi Master repeat a mistake the Phantom Menace intended to reveal how ignorant one of its characters was. This is not a great way to establish that Trinity, or the Jedi more broadly, are wise or sensible people.
Come out. We won't hurt you.
Oh, look, there goes the obvious lie. Though, again, why Occupational Safety and Health Administration would accept the word of these fearsome strangers over the clear wishes of everyone she knows is anybody's guess.
We meet your sister.
Oh, for fuck. So now you've confirmed that you have been spying on them. It's just that none of the witches have spotted that this confirms you've been spying on them, because this isn't the bit where the script says they realize they've been spied on.
They're mocking.
It wasn't there this morning.
You're spying on us?
There we go. They caught up eventually. Horny, if the Jedi already know that Occupational Safety and Health Administration has a sister, then obviously they've been spying on you. Try to keep up.
They want to take our children!
The Jedi do not take children. When the Jedi tested me, I was only 4.
How embarrassing.
Good stuff. Also, just mentioning it, Squid Game, but if the witches are concerned that you're here to take their children, I'm not sure bribing a child with a shiny lightsaber is the best way to go about reassuring them. And I keep having to point this out, Occupational Safety and Health Administration should have no idea what this is. Or, if she does, she should know it as the weapon that almost wiped out her people. There is no way this should be a neutral, even an attractive prospect to her. It only acts as one because none of these writers has thought through their own backstory and its implications.
I think you would make a very good Jedi, Osha.
Oh, fuck. Definitely don't say that. Honestly, I really want to like Squid Game. And yes, he is far and away the best actor in the entire production, but he's really quite dense. And he's going to be made to seem pretty fucking evil when, as I'm pretty sure will happen, it turns out the Jedi secretly massacred or were involved in the massacre of all of these mad women. Also, note how the witches, who were 5 seconds ago angry and concerned that the Jedi were here to steal their children, have all of a sudden got nothing to say when a Jedi explicitly tries to bribe one of their children in front of them.
If you want your Padawan returned to his right mind, I suggest you all leave.
Oh, gee, that escalated quickly. What is that power? It looks incredibly, well, powerful. Kind of harks back to Demon Eyes from the dream sequence too, doesn't it? I wonder if there'll be some connection there. But if you could do this to one Jedi, couldn't you do it to all of them? Wouldn't this have allowed you to finish the ritual before engaging with them? What are the limits on this power? Why don't you use it when either the Jedi or May inevitably try to kill you off screen later? Hell, why not just fuck all of their minds right here, right now? Then either fly them off to distant parts of the galaxy or just leave them to die in the forest outside Fort Vagina. It'd take a while for anyone to notice they'd gone missing, and unless they'd been honest with Coruscant about why they were here, and the deleted records and such suggests they haven't been, then the true cause of death might never have been discovered, giving you ample opportunity to escape and find a new safe haven with your 2 newly ascended twins. One other thing to note, we are here 16 years ago, and Tommen is a Padawan. 16 years hence, Tommen is a master who kills himself, having spent a decade in silent meditation. That suggests, I think, unless I've completely balked my maths, that after whatever goes down here, there's a period of 6 years during which Tommen must complete the trials, become a knight, and then become a master, during which time he'll still be carrying around the guilt of whatever goes down here. And the Jedi Council never detected there was anything in the least bit wrong with him. He never displayed any psychological problems. They only surfaced after he became a master and immediately went into a decade of meditation. This all seems a bit, well, fucky.
Please let me take the test.
You don't know what the test is, you moron! You don't know what the Jedi are! Where is this coming from, Occupational Safety and Health Administration?
You cannot deny that Jedi have the right to test potential Padawans. With your permission, of course.
Hold on, Trinity darling. We're not in Republic territory, and Republic law doesn't apply out here. So actually, she very much can deny that you have this right. And anyway, if your right is dependent on a parent or guardian giving permission, then it's not a right, is it? You have the right to ask, which entails they have the right to say no. Why is this so fucking Mother Anusai releases Tommen and says, fine then, you can test the girl. Squid Game demands they be allowed to test both girls, and she accepts. However, later, the witches are arguing about what to do next. Horny Lesbian is angry and wants to attack the Jedi, but Mother Anusai says no, because were they to attack and kill the Jedi would soon be back and in greater numbers. I mean, you could just leave, couldn't you? Do you have no ships? You must have had ships at some point in the past. You got all the way out here. Worst case scenario, you could kill the Jedi and steal their ship. Or, as I suggested, mindfuck them to oblivion and plop them down on the other side of the planet in the middle of the forest to get eaten by whatever evil monsters live there.
Did not bring the girls into this world so we could lose them to a bunch of deranged monks.
After those shenanigans we just witnessed, I really don't think you've got any right to be calling other people deranged monks, you deranged bitch. I mean, witch.
I carried them.
I created them.
Oh god, I guess we're gonna have to, aren't we? We're gonna have to. Did you ever hear of the tragedy of Darth Plagueis the Wise? I thought not. It's not a story Disney would canonize. It was said he could influence the midi-chlorians to create life. He became so powerful, The only thing he was afraid of was losing his power, which eventually, of course, he did. Unfortunately, a coven of lesbians beat him to everything he knew, and then he killed himself of cringe. I'm sorry to do this, but I'm going to have to turn to Grace Randolph again to intro the Anakin implications of all we have just heard.
Apparently, fans feel this undercuts Anakin's specialness and his uniqueness. But I actually think that it makes him even more special, and it deepens and heightens the lore around that aspect of his character. The problem that some fans feel is that by making Osha and May a virgins, aka a force nexus, that undercuts Anakin Skywalker as he's supposed to be the only person who's a living virgin since Star Wars. And that's what makes him so special and powerful. Well, first off, there's already been another set of twins created by the Force in the animated show Star Wars Visions, another Force dyad. And you notice I keep saying twins. Well, Anakin doesn't have a twin, and that's why he's still plenty special, right? He's the only individual, first off, he's the only individual created by the Force, and he was created naturally. It was a natural occurrence. It was not by any group's design. And perhaps, you know, based on what we know about the other virginses, the sets of twins, maybe that's why Anakin himself is divided between the light side and the dark side, which I find it fascinating. Like, that's why he's split right down the middle. You know, it's not even his fault or anyone around him their fault. That's his nature, because of the Force is always seeking balance. And since it's the dark side of the Force that seems to be the one that creates living virginses, maybe that's why it's the dark side that ultimately won out with Anakin.
I'll not leave you here. I've got to save you.
You already have.
Now, I'm actually with Grace, up to a very definite point, in that I don't think the Acolyte deserves all the blame for meddling with the prophecy, nor, from my admittedly limited understanding of Star Wars lore, do I believe it is ever stated there can be only one virgins in the Force, only one person born of pure Force, only one myth about Force virginses, and so on. The problem, though, comes in several parts. In the first place, it's all very well and good having many myths and many hypotheticals, many possibilities, but the more of these you realize, the more you actualize, the more the oneness of the principal prophecy is diminished in its significance. We already know, per the Acolyte, that the witches view pulling on the thread as a means to change destiny itself, meaning that, if they are proven correct, Anakin is not the chosen one, he is merely a chosen one, of a select faction of a specific myth, leading to the second place. Anakin has already been rendered unspecial, because the sequel trilogy supplanted his place in myth entirely. Anakin was not the chosen one, he did not bring balance to the Force, he did not defeat the dark side or even Creamy Sheev. That was all Rey, until the next set of films when it turns out the dark side is back and she didn't even manage that after all. This, of course, leads us to the third place. Disney canon doesn't like being restricted to the singular savior myth of the prequel trilogy, which you do have to read into the OT because it wasn't present in the OT at its inception. Disney canon, though, established this idea of Force dyads without any explanation, and now it seems we must spend our time and attention on fleshing out the dyad concept. Star Wars Visions has one, from what I'm told. Now, the Acolyte almost certainly has one as well, also tied to the virgin birth mythotype that once distinguished Anakin. This has evidently been deemed essential in order that Star Wars not, in essence, be finished. After all, if Anakin was the chosen one and Anakin brought balance to the Force, the main arc around which Star Wars was constructed has reached its end point. I mean, sure, the old expanded universe showed it was perfectly possible to continue on with new stories, beginning new arcs, facing new threats, but we burned all of that, didn't we, Kathy? Rather, Disney seems unable or unwilling to break links to the Skywalker saga, hence its preference for going back in time and its want to establish new destinies, new myths, new virginses, and such, either within or leading up to the established timeline of the Lucas movies. It is not impossible to tell grand arcs within that time frame, but it inevitably poses a risk to the settled significance of that time frame, because self-evidently, a singular prophetic savior myth that comes true is more potent than one of any number of prophetic savior myths that are equally real and coexisting, and that all come true. And then, of course, there is the fourth place, the mechanical problem. Here we are, 100 years before the prequels, and the Jedi have just encountered a group of random witches who've been able to manipulate the midichlorians, or the thread, to create life. From what I understand, even Darth Plagueis in Legends did not possess this power. He took a being, Darth Venomous, who was already born, and he killed him. Then he revived him, then he killed him again, then he revived him, then he killed him again, until Venomous's organs completely collapsed, after which Plagueis either could not or would not bring him back. That is my entry-level understanding of his story. I have not yet read it, so I am prepared to be corrected if I am wrong. The point I'm making, though, is that these witches have discovered a power any number of later groups and individuals lusted after, including some of the most recognizably powerful people in the galaxy, none of whom were able to repeat it. Yet here, the Jedi have encountered a group who did accomplish it, and they wind up grabbing one of the products of that experiment. Yet we are almost certainly going to see the Jedi kill or be complicit in the killing of this group of witches. They never even bothered to check if Fanny Mae survives the coming calamity, and when Occupational Safety and Health Administration drops out of Jedi school later in the timeline, they just let her go without a second's thought. Meaning that, at one and the same time, the Jedi know the prophecy of the Chosen One is mechanically possible. They know something very like it has already been achieved at least once before, and yet they are surprised when Qui-Gon suggests he found the Vergence in Anakin, and they'll somehow leave the Acolyte's time period knowing absolutely nothing about how the witches achieved something so miraculous.
What could be more powerful than a vagina?
Despite how massively significant that miracle is. In other words, the Acolyte has just given itself probably the most significant plot device in Star Wars history, and it has managed to write it in such a way that the Jedi must drop the plot device between now and the beginning of The Phantom Menace in about 75 years' time. Why would you not capture the witches? Why would you not send word to Coruscant and get a whole armada over here to bring them safely into custody? Why would you not insist on getting all of them, including the children, so you can understand how they managed to persuade the Force itself to create magic babies? I am even prepared to park that these witches achieved something that the Jedi, the Sith, the Night Sisters, the Empire, and so on could not. Unlikely as it seems, it is not impossible, but what is highly implausible, the point of being unbelievable, is that this can be made to fit with the rest of the story as it has already been told. Anyway, now that's out of the way, what's wrong with your face? Also, where the fuck did you come from? Look, here's the distant shot. No terrifying old hag to be seen. Then, suddenly hag! Old Expo hag come to use her vast age to exposit for us in this one and only scene before she portals back out of existence forever.
This test has two outcomes. A pass or a fail. If they pass, the girls leave. If we want them to stay.
Poop pants.
Poo pants?
Boomer pants.
You pooped your pants?
Boomer pants.
Oh.
The upshot of this is that the girls are told to lie to the Jedi during their test. Fanny Mae is happy to do this, but Occupational Safety and Health Administration is not, because, to return to this wonderfully profound expression of their existential dichotomy,
the Jedi are bad. The Jedi are good.
God, writing. That's why you get paid the big bucks.
In winter we hunt with bunta, in summer with bows and arrows.
But we still hunt. That doesn't change.
This just means nothing. It's pseudo-profundity. You might as well say, when I drink, I pee, and when I eat, I poop, but I'm still human. That doesn't change. The ability to speak does not make you intelligent. I thought we'd established this. What we've also established is that Occupational Safety and Health Administration wants to go with the Jedi, so she doesn't want to lie to them, while Fanny Mae doesn't want to go with the Jedi, so she is happy to lie to them. But apparently, this has been deemed too subtle, so we have to reinforce it for the absolute brainlets who enjoy this shit unironically.
May, I don't want to lie. I want to say what's in my heart. You have to lie. Promise me. Fine, I promise.
You do realize the Jedi are right over there, don't you? If Kelnacker's got, like, Wookiee hearing or something, he could have overheard you talking about lying to them. What we've also established is that these witches hate the Jedi and have been hunted to the verge of extinction. The fact that they now reside outside the Republic suggests the Jedi at least sat by for the hunt, though I think it's quite clearly implied they may have partaken in it. And we know that these witches have done this miraculous and difficult thing in birthing twin Jesuses. Jedi? Twin Jedi? That'll do. So it's absolutely mad that they should be allowing this test to take place at all, let alone that they should be pinning all their hopes on both of the Jedi successfully lying to the Jedi, whom they know are force sensitive and can detect that sort of thing. Let alone that they should be trusting one of the Jedi in particular to lie, despite her telling everyone over and over again that she wants to leave. The Jedi test your blood for midichlorians, for fuck's sake. How are you going to lie to a blood test?
Do all Jedis get one of those?
After much training.
So have you watched Star Wars before? Do you not remember Attack of the Clones? The Jedi give lightsabers to children like their beloved kids' TV presenters from the 70s handing out pills. The test consists of a Phantom Menace reference, obviously. Jedi training is modeled after Jedi Master Peter Venkman, who pioneered the exams sat by force sensitives back in the 20th century. Fanny Mae is in and out inside a few seconds, but Occupational Safety and Health Administration is not allowed to lie, by which I mean she is literally not allowed to fail this test. And then she gives the game away anyway because she's a fucking idiot.
Correct.
That wasn't
Did someone tell you to fail this test?
So wait. This scene would suggest that the Jedi already know something of these girls and how important they are. They are here for a very specific reason. They knew to come to Brandok. They know the girls have no father, so the implication is that they are at least slightly aware of what's been going on and of how significant the girls are. This scene further confirms that the Jedi are not going to allow Occupational Safety and Health Administration to fail the test, which again suggests that they know how important she is, and that this test is really just for show. It's a formality. But that poses the question. Why? You've got both of the girls, they are both on your ship. The witches appear to have no ships of their own, and their weapons are positively medieval. There are no witches guarding the children, there are no witches anywhere near the children, and you will not let the children fail the test, meaning you are intent on taking them. So, take them? Why are you still here, even? You've got everything you want. Take the kids, then dispatch a force to round up the witches for mind probing later. They haven't seen a dick in generations. They might even enjoy a good probing. Anyway, Squid Game makes a very cheerful and endearing little pitch to convince her to tell the truth, relaying how he too was convinced by weird monks that he was special, and he too passed the test, and was taken from his family at the tender age of 4 to live with many other thousands of children whom the weird monks consider special, in a not at all suspicious way. And this is enough to convince Occupational Safety and Health Administration to take the test properly. Later on, back with the witches, Occupational Safety and Health Administration continues to lay out her motives like she is an instruction manual for a f***ing chair or something.
I told the truth. It was the right thing to do. I didn't want to lie. I told him I wanted to be a Jedi because I do. I want my own life. I don't want to share it with May. I want to see the galaxy. I don't want to be a witch.
This all pisses Fanny Mae off, but Mother Anus Eye is implausibly nice and understanding and accepts her decision, which she's made even though she's just been told she'll never see her loving mother ever again, and even though she's just met the Jedi 5 minutes ago, and even though she has no reason to, oh, what the hell. There's no point reiterating, is there? Of course it's rushed and forced and terrible. But that's nothing. That is nothing compared to what happens next. For that night, Fanny Mae is so annoyed at her twin for spawning nonsensical character motives to push the plot along that she tries to burn her alive. And here is where it is very much worth paying attention, even to the details. Not because all the details will be relevant necessarily, because some of them probably won't be, because these writers are incompetent, but they all might be relevant. So, Fanny Mae toddles into the room. She says,
I won't let you leave. You can't go. We're stuck here now.
This is already potentially revealing. We're stuck here now suggests that something has already happened and that Fanny Mae was involved in whatever it was, which means that what we are about to see, her grabbing Occupational Safety and Health Administration's inexplicably triangular book, using an inexplicable open candle in a room full of electric lighting to set the book on fire, and then the fire from that paper inexplicably engulfing metal and stone in a matter of seconds, well, it kind of suggests that all of that is probably a misdirect. The only alternative is that setting a piece of paper on fire led to this, and I don't believe even the Acolyte would believe that that is possible. Within the space of mere seconds, the entire door and everything around it is burning. Occupational Safety and Health Administration then uses the Force to glean knowledge and experience she doesn't yet have from the life as a mechanic she hasn't yet lived to hack open a little hatch thing in her wall that exists for some reason without a button to operate it. This allows her into some sort of tunnel, and the next thing worth noting is that we are very firmly rooted in POV here. Occupational Safety and Health Administration is going through a tunnel, and we never leave her side, meaning we quite pointedly do not see what is happening up in the temple proper. Even when there is a sudden bang and some screams, we remain stuck to Occupational Safety and Health Administration, as she looks up to see dust falling from a grate in the roof from whence the screams came. These screams, though, come before Occupational Safety and Health Administration walks out into the generator room, which Fannie Mae reaches at the same time, and so before the generator explodes, meaning that the witches did not die en masse in this explosion. Moreover, as Fannie Mae enters from stage left, Squid Game enters from stage, center? And he's calling for them. This means the Jedi were already in the temple before the explosion occurred, and probably too, before we heard the death cry of the witches in the room above. It also suggests that Squid Game had some idea where he was going, and so where the Jedi twins are. Moreover, Squid Game comes from a third path, past the bodies of witches who are already lying dead. For the sake of drama, the Jedi twins end up on opposite sides of a broken bridge.
Where's Mama? Mama's dead. What have you done? What have you done? What have you done?
I absolutely refuse to try and read anything into the line delivery here because it is futile trying to derive meaning from children who couldn't act their way out of a Star Wars show. The bridge collapses. Oh no! Squid Game apparently hasn't put any points into the Force levitate power yet, because while he will later be shown using the Force to save Occupational Safety and Health Administration from pretty much the self-same situation, here he just lets Fannie Mae fall to her inevitable not death, while he has to grab Occupational Safety and Health Administration by the hand to save her. Having grabbed Occupational Safety and Health Administration, Squid Game then takes her back through the third route by which he arrived. They pass the bodies of dead witches. There are no burn marks on these witches. They do not appear to have been burned or exploded to death. And while that could be interpreted as the requirements of age rating, I maintain there is a diegetic reason for the disconnect between dead bodies and their supposed cause of death. They pass Mother Anis Ai's body, though we do not see her face.
Whoever this motherfucker is, how are you going to make me actually care about them? What are you going to do? Like, what's possibly type of story are you going to tell? And like, based on who we have here, because obviously it's not going to be just a completely new reveal. It's got to be someone we've seen so far. So who do you think it is?
Mother Anis Ai.
Yeah, it's one of the two mothers. It's going to be
the Darth Maul one, probably. She was just pissed off.
Yeah, well, see, we did see the dead body of the Mother Anis Ai or whatever. We did not see the dead body of the other.
That's a good point. We didn't see her body, and she hates the Jedi more. She is more angry and aggressive. That would make more sense.
It's got to be her. Like,
I think it's her. Yeah.
Either her or like the Ezra Miller dude. Like, is it possible for him? Maybe he's been.
I've heard someone suggest that before, and I don't really see where that's. I don't know where that idea has come from. I'm not sure what the evidence trail would be. Mind you, it's the fucking Acolyte. We don't need evidence.
I mean, it's because we just got nothing to work with. Maybe it's green bean.
And once again, the cause of death doesn't seem to be anything in her proximity. Fort Vagina is, by this point, well and truly ablaze. This is not a euphemism for thrush. Ain't no cream to put out this fire. Look here, look at it. Look at the exterior shot. There is absolutely no way a burning notebook did this in the time it took Occupational Safety and Health Administration to be rescued and evacuated by Squid Game. So either Fannie Mae has already gone about setting lots of fires, or the Jedi have done something very bad, or some combination thereof. More evidence for the Jedi having done something very bad is that when Squid Game gets Occupational Safety and Health Administration back to their ship, we spot Tommen Baratheon, and though it's not easy to see through the distance blur, it looks to me like a few years have been shaved off his twink life by the addition of that big old scar we see him sporting later in life, at which point his hairline has quite clearly attempted to flee whatever disaster his eyes have witnessed. Squid Game continues to act the hell out of every scene he's in.
We are on our way to Coruscant.
What happened?
May started a fire. It destroyed everything. It killed
Mama and May.
and I keep pointing this out, but mainly because there's so little else worth praising. My hope is that he emerges from this like Sydney Sweeney & Co. emerged from Madam Web, reputation intact, enhanced, in fact, by the general acknowledgement that nothing about this catastrophe is really his fault. In a happier timeline, he'd have made an excellent Jedi. He is cursed to live, as are we all in this one. And that is pretty much it. They're taking Occupational Safety and Health Administration back to Coruscant, where she will be safe. Mother Anus Eye is presumed dead. Fanny May is presumed dead. Because the bridge she was stranded on failed Occupational Safety and Health Administration checks, and nobody bothered to double check the bottom of the very deep hole she fell into, even though this is Star Wars and everybody survives that sort of thing. The last scene of the episode sees us jump back to Brendok to find Fanny May, somehow alive and somehow unscathed, has somehow returned and is now standing alone in front of the Bunta tree. The end. What a staggeringly incompetent episode. It should go without saying that neither of the writers, Jasmine Flournoy or Eileen Shim, have particularly glittering CVs. Flournoy in particular seems to have just 4 credits listed on IMDb, and 3 of those under the heading Additional Crew. The Acolyte is the only writing credit listed. Shim has a few more under her belt, including an episode of House of the Dragon, which experience evidently did not rub off on her. Inexperience is, I think, one of the principal reasons behind one of the Acolyte's perennial issues, the forced exposition and tell what you see approach to screenwriting. I've written a fair few scripts now, and I've seen plenty more written by others, and if you're guided by people who know what they are doing, this common problem is one of the first things you learn to outgrow. The temptation is often to pepper dialogue with explanations of setting because you have nothing but your own script for reference, so calling out things that will be obvious in context is an amateurish way of grounding yourself in the scene you are building. Tell what you think writing is a related problem, and it may stem from the same source, insecurity and inexperience, but I've always regarded it as distinct since the inner life doesn't need to be grounded in the same mechanical way as setting and scenery does. That is simply a case of being untalented, unintelligent, and or distrustful of your audience's intelligence. I think an awful lot of people were preparing to hate episode 3 because of the lesbianism angle, not because of lesbianism per se. To the eternal frustration of many lesbians, most people don't really care about the female brand of gay, except insofar as it is good material for porn, but rather because of the political propagandizing that usually accompanies it. Absent the odd line though, like the galaxy doesn't welcome women like us, there really wasn't as much of that as I was expecting. The episode was, if anything, worse, and for more universally appreciable reasons. A salient reminder that for all the culture war and its issues get and deserve many clicks, the common factor and the thing with the greatest potential to unite people in praise or admonition is the self-contained quality of the art being produced. Much as with the rest of the show, if perhaps a notch or two lower down the ladder into the cesspool, the Acolyte episode 3 is hated and mocked because it is appallingly written, first and foremost. Appallingly written in an isolated sense, and also in the grander sense of continuity and the way it meshes with and mushes up what is left of canonical Star Wars. As a final note, the most important bits to remember for the next episode are that Fanny May accused the Jedi of attacking unarmed innocents in episode 1, that Tommen Baratheon killed himself out of guilt in episode 2, while in episode 3 we never see how the witch commune is destroyed, and it is entirely unbelievable that Fanny May setting one fire with one notebook set all of Fort Vagina ablaze. Her line about being stuck here now suggests she had acted prior to the attempted combustion of her sister. The fact Squid Game was already in Fort Vagina while the fire was spreading suggests the Jedi were involved, while the camera being locked on Occupational Safety and Health Administration, even when it would have been more natural to jump away to the most significant events as they unfolded, well, all this combined suggests 3 things. Number 1, the Jedi are implicated in the death of the Coven. Number 2, Fanny May herself is more directly implicated in the death of the Coven than the setting of one small fire. And number 3, we will get Fanny May's POV later in the series, either as a dedicated flashback episode or in a flashback section, quite possibly a dream sequence, in a later episode. These are my predictions, and I leave you now. Will time say nothing but I told you so? If I could tell you, I would let you know.